Mike Mays could not be in attendance, but I'm Steve Wolf, Village Council. Jeremy Varner's here, Chief Freeland and Captain Staggs of the Police Department, Joey Rocky, Chief of the Fire Department, and Mayor Cowhall is here with us. And I've got a very light agenda kind of coming into the new year, and we'll just kind of jump right in with that. I had sent out sort of a preliminary agenda of sorts. And the first thing I had on there was an idea I had for recognition, but I want to jump past that idea because I think I had an idea in mind of how we could highlight some maybe month-to-month accomplishments of individual firemen, EMT, or police officers. But then at the last minute, I got to thinking I wouldn't want other people, even though that's what this committee does. I thought if we go about that the wrong way, then I wouldn't want other village employees and other departments think that we didn't appreciate them or anything. So I'm just still kicking that around in my head on that original idea of that. And I didn't bring my tablet with me to be able to pop up that little list. So I won't really kind of go down a checklist, but I guess the main thing of this meeting was I just thought we could touch back in on the police assessment. And our last Emergency Services Committee meeting, we had sort of we'd sort of pinpointed a lot of things that were in the police assessment as goals and deliverables and whatnot.
Printed that off.
Yeah, could I reference?
I got it here too. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No, if you can read it, it's tiny.
You can keep you on vacation. You can get off tomorrow too.
No, I'll be back tomorrow.
Oh, sorry.
I had to burn up time or I was going to lose it.
Oh.
And I'll say it again, as I've said it many times before, the police department, when they received their assessment, before we ever called our first meeting, they had a whole bunch of items already moving downstream on that list. So I guess now that I have a list, maybe we will check down it real quick. As far as the updated policies and procedures, the resource that Chief Freeland had talked about using for that was Lexipol. And in a previous meeting, we had a presentation by Lexipol. And not to put words in anybody's mouth, but I think the mayor, the chief, the captain, the council members that are on this committee, and even to some extent, we talked about it in full council. Everybody was kind of on board, and I'll shut up here because and see where we're at with that. Because as I remember, where we kind of left off was investigating if that's something maybe we could do sort of district. I'm not at school, village wide. And
I think that when Art and Joey looked into it, I don't know whether Chief, you were in on it too. Was it kind of hard to get all of them in the same capacity, or what was it? Chief
No,
Rocky?
it's actually would be fairly handy for the fire department.
Would it?
Yes.
Okay.
They, not that I want to be like anybody else, but Mount Orb started using it and it's worked well for them. And so, I mean, they can really help you, probably just like the police, but like set up guidelines and SOGs and that. And that's kind of what they do. So they could, I'm sure, do a little more professional job than I am. So it would help me out. So.
And we need to pursue that.
Yeah.
Did we ever arrive at a price tag for them, or was that something that we had to wait for?
I thought that's where we had left off, is that Chief Freeland had sort of got a price, when we,
Chief does for the police.
and then I
Right.
thought that, and if he's listening, I'm not saying he hasn't done something that he should have done by now or anything like that at all, but I thought maybe where it left off was that Art was going to explore maybe what the price tag would be to take it from there to everybody.
I think he did. I just don't know what the conclusion was. I remember him discussing it.
Okay.
But we can get that from him, and maybe you can
Okay.
bring it up at our next council meeting too.
So for purposes of this list, I think that was a recommendation from the assessment. And I think that Chief Freeland's taken it as far as he can take it. I think the ball's in our court. He's interviewed with, he's interviewed that company and looked into it. He's set up an appointment where they did a presentation to us. He's captured the price on it. And so now I think that ball's in all of our court. So I can't check it off the list because we're not really registered with Lexipol yet, but I mean, I think I can kind of check it off the list because as something that the police department was supposed to look into, again, I think they've taken that as far as they can.
Chief, do you have any comments about the Lexipol subscription or whatever you wish to call it?
As we've discussed before, a lot of that rides on me getting the current Police Officer Association closed out. Obviously, you know, we had some pay that was put out last year. So I did the 1099s and everything for that. There are some fees I have to pay to keep the Shop with a Cop 501c3. And then I need to file our taxes for 2022. And believe it or not, it was a nightmare finding a CPA. I mean, I called people, left messages. I even took a recommendation from our a solicitor's office for a place, and they didn't even have CPA services. So I finally found someone that's willing to do it, but I have to do the taxes first, and then it'll go to them. So we may be looking at another month and a half before those funds all the boxes are checked, and the village is ready to receive that.
And a light bulb just went off my head because up until about 10 seconds ago, I thought, what does that have to do with this? But I remember now that the money that from that organization getting transferred over was what was going to pay for their part of Lexipol.
The police association is going to donate that to the village to
Yes.
be utilized for the Lexipol.
Yeah.
You know, for it, I don't want to call it an ante, but it's kind of like the participation fee. It's not the annual fee, but the participation fee.
That's the initial setup is a nightmare from what I understand. And I know there's some local agencies that joined Lexipol and didn't opt in to do the initial setup with the company, and they still don't have a policy manual. So I just think it'd be a lot simpler if we just, did that right off the bat. Let's see, the property room, they want 100%, audit of that. I wanted to wait until this new year so we had a new fresh budget, because obviously that person's not going to come do that for free. The person that was recommended by Miss Matson is a retired Loveland officer. I've been in contact with him and Sue. He is currently on vacation in Hawaii. So
He must be doing a lot of auditing.
so as soon as he gets back, he's supposed to be in contact with me so we can get that box checked off. And of course, I'll have to rearrange the schedule because I'm sure that's probably going to take two to 3 weeks with Ramel. So she'll be off the road trying to do that. Just going down your list here. There's a thing here about training for me and Matt. I've actually I really didn't want to put this out there this early, but I plan on leaving next year. I plan on retiring. So what I want to do in the meantime is get as much leadership training for my current supervisors, which is Matt and Jesse, this year as I can. I know there's a class that I've wanted to take since I became chief, and Matt actually wanted to take it this year, but there's the same reason why I couldn't send him to it. It's the same reason why I never went. And it's 11 weeks, and you're physically in Columbus. So it's, and you can't come in and work during that time because you have to study and be in classes daily. And it's very good training, but it's very time consuming. And with our current staffing, it's just not feasible.
Is there any alternative to that particular class or?
There are some classes that, I'm looking into, like there's first line supervision classes. Some of these guys have already taken those things, but it doesn't hurt to get a refresher sometimes. There's always somebody offering something, whether it's, there's different areas like dealing with difficult employees. There's classes just for doing evaluations. There's lots of different things that we can look into that would help, the next generation, basically, to say whenever they take over. So But I obviously, if there's something that I can take in the meantime, because it isn't like I'm leaving tomorrow, I will do that. And then moving on to the social media, we try to utilize that as much as we can. It's definitely a learning experience because me personally, I don't put a lot on social media.
You guys
So-
are doing you're doing really well with that.
So
You are.
I've tried to put people in charge of that are those people that like to promote things and all that type of stuff. So I'm hoping we've got a better presence there.
You do.
And, highlighting all of the officers at certain times, intervals throughout the year would be great. It's not just when they have a big case. I think all the officers put an honest effort in to get their work done. So they all ought to be, showcased at some point in time during the year.
And as far as continued training, last year we had 24 hours. We lucked out on that because the state offered all 24 of those hours online. So, a lot of those, the officers were able to do that while they were on the clock. So we didn't accrue any additional costs. And the state still, gave us a little bit of money to help offset some of those expenses.
Was that through OPATA?
Yeah, that's through OPATA in the AG's office,
Okay.
or the Attorney General's office for those at home. But, and actually up until about 2 weeks ago, they were saying that we were not going to have any required training this year. However, that committee with the state met just a couple of weeks ago, and they decided that they're going to do another 24 hours. 8 of those will be online, but it's so early in the process, they haven't even set those classes up. 16 of it will be on us locally. So those will be in-person training of some type, but they have not yet set the parameters for those yet as well. So, the clock's ticking on that. So hopefully they get something out to all the agencies so we can get that, those type of things scheduled and get that taken care of.
Does any of the stuff that might come with like Lexipol and stuff like that cover any of that?
They typically set their own guidelines.
It's
Okay.
the Lexipol would basically mainly check our box with having that ever-changing, living, breathing policy manual that changes with the laws. And it would also check the box with the collaborative with the officers having regular training on it.
Right.
But unfortunately, that would not fall for the required training through the state. I mean, like I said, they haven't set the parameters yet, but I can guarantee you that's not going to fall within the
I got
parameters.
you. Yeah,
Yeah, Freeland, besides some of that mandated training, though, you guys have done, I think, there's been some elective or some other training done. I remember, right? You mentioned recently Sawyer and somebody else got trained on a piece of equipment. Could you?
It's a piece of equipment it was my original understanding that every agency that went was going to get one of these devices. Unfortunately, that's not the case. They're going to have one central here in the county, which will be at the sheriff's department. And the officers that were trained on it, which, like I said, we have 2, will have the option to either go take their evidence directly to the sheriff's department and do the testing there, or they can even check it out there and bring it, wherever they need to take it to do the testing elsewhere.
And that's Sawyer and Luther.
That was Sawyer and Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also Sawyer and Chase went to training to become field training officers. And they worked together to create a field training program. And actually, we just had our first officer go through that, Colin Blevins. And I think it's going to work out great because, I have no doubt that he is just about ready to go out and be able to handle calls on his own. He's already out in a car by himself, but he's not allowed to work by himself, but he's doing very, very good so far.
If any of you didn't know, we hired Colin Blevins as a part-time officer, about 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago,
It's been almost 2 months.
2 months? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, ready young man, I think. So
He's in
he'll
the
be a nice
National
addition.
Guard, clean cut kid. Actually, one of his buddies just came in that went through the academy with him. He just came in last week and applied. So I'm hoping he works out as well because we definitely need the part-time officers. So
And also, Steve, I think there's also the SWAT training too, right?
yeah, Rammel is actually scheduled to go to the SWAT training. I believe it's in March or April. I can't remember off the
I
top of
think
my
in
head.
April. It is
It might
March
be.
or
It might be April.
So hearing all that about training, I guess my point being, again, to people listening or whatnot, as far as the assessment, identifying officer training, there's like a lot of officer training going on. This is what you'll have this in ESC meetings.
Yeah.
Do you need?
Emergency.
I'm assuming that it was something that he needed Matt for.
We need a recess, or does Matt need to take part in this?
Go ahead, Chief, if you.
Do we need to recess?
Do we, no?
Okay, all right.
I had a call and then there was somebody out there needed an officer about a ticket. So, sorry about that.
All right.
Okay.
You were saying that, as we go on, there is training that's ongoing all the
Yeah.
time. So-
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is there's always officers, whether it's something that they are, it's something that they're interested in and they would like to learn more about, or, or us as supervisors that we see, hey, this officer's really excelling in this area. Maybe we need to massage that a little bit and, make them even better at it. And we also had 4 officers go to the, it's called the Reed interview and interrogation training last year as well. Actually Chase just interviewed somebody the other day, and he came in and he was just smiling ear to ear because he got a confession, and he was just, he finally got to use his new skills.
Yeah, cool.
And, yeah. So.
I mean, I think that box is kind of checked. I mean, I think there's a lot of.
It's going to be an ongoing process.
Yeah,
forever,
it's
so
not like a thing that you're checked and done with, but I mean, I think that
They're addressing that. Well.
I did want to add to, I just looked at my calendar because I got it marked in the calendar on my phone. But since the last meeting, we have performed 3 different evaluations, one on Hunnicky, Fetters, and Pendleton, their annual evaluations.
okay.
Those just as a side note on those evaluations, we do those on their anniversaries. We don't do them all at a lump sum time. It's just, honestly, I prefer to do it this way because if you try to do everybody at once, even though it's not like we're a huge department, I think things tend to overlap and you get things jumbled up, and I like to be able to concentrate on that one person.
Can I ask a question about that, Matt? This is 100%. This has to do with a conversation that happened in another committee. So I'm just curious. Are you using, when you said you evaluated this 3 officers, are you using the same evaluation procedure you have been in the past? Or have you guys done anything?
Step away. We've got a bad crash that I need
Oh.
to get to.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Jerry.
That's all right. I didn't have a whole lot anyway.
Good luck, man. Yeah.
Good luck.
What are you using for that? I'm just because
It's a standardized form that a lot of other departments use that just hit certain guidelines, following policy, appearance, work habits, on time. Like I think there's like maybe 25 different categories, and you can score them in each one. And then you can also add like, positives, strengths, and then
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
another option to where you put, these are areas we want you to improve on.
Cool.
So,
all right, yeah. I was just curious how you're running that.
Think of another meeting I sat in somewhere.
If there's-
You guys do like.
And if there's something in there that doesn't check the
yeah,
box,
he has to have them.
there's
Yeah.
a fill in the blank where you can just basically put whatever you want. Just as a side note to them, they're able to rebuttal to you whenever you give it to them. So.
Okay, thank you.
That might be all the things on this list there's things on this list that's other people's responsibility to do. Improving your facilities, you can't do that on your.
One thing that we touched upon, it may not have been the last meeting, it may have been a meeting before that, was the officer wellness. And I believe that you talked with Art to see whether our health insurance would cover things such as officer wellness, that they need help with, when they've been traumatized with a scene, or that they can get, some sort of, I don't want to say psychological help, but, counseling as far as that goes. And I believe that is something that is available through our plans.
The county, there's actually an organization coming in who's going to do a county-wide one too.
Okay.
So there's going to be multiple options. I mean, there's some agencies that have mental health officials come in every 6 months and sit down with the officers. They can talk. They don't have to. It's an option there. And there's some agencies that actually have financial advisors come in and help them, if they're having financial, issues or whatever. But as for the mental health, I know the county is not necessarily Brown County itself, but there's somebody that's going to do one county-wide. So
I think we made an inquiry with Haran and Associates, and I don't know what the end result was, but I seem to think there was some dialogue that there was certain types of help available there.
there are several free options out there. Claremont County's had one for a long time that will reach out this way too, if we need them.
And that would be also available for fire EMS too. the same
Yeah, any
situation.
first responder.
Maybe even, not for your program, but even other people here in our other departments could probably get access to
Yeah,
some
that-
sort of.
That one that our insurance does, that would be for any village employee.
Right.
And we actually in the county have a crisis response team, which I'm part of, that, in an incident we'll go and we can go and be there. And just kind of evaluate and, and give people options and stuff. So.
Okay, I think we've talked about almost everything on this list, except maybe a couple things. I see one thing on here, and I don't think it's necessarily the chief's responsibility. Again, there's several things that were in the assessment that the department needed to do, and we can see they're doing them. There were some other things that were in the assessment that it would be more on the mayor, council, other people to provide or help the department with. This might fall into that category. It's a minor thing maybe compared to other things, but and I guess I'm looking a little bit at you, Jeremy, because you're tech savvy and whatnot. One of the recommendations was to do a community survey of the police department. Sue Madsen had mentioned that on the Georgetown Police Department page, there is a place to complain, but there's not a place to compliment. When I can think, and unfortunately, and not to get into the whole debate about having comments at meetings or whatnot, but I'm not going there. But in meetings where we did have that, whenever Chief Freeland would stand up and talk about a major arrest that was made or whatever, I mean, there would be a stream of 50 comments. Great job, police department. Great job, guys, whatever. You guys had a recent post on social media about a youth that got to sort of be an auxiliary policeman for a day or something like that. And that went viral. There was just a lot of the community were just praising you all for that. Your Facebook page has like more members than what I think the population of our town is. So I tend to think you guys are, your department, you guys and gals are well loved in our community. So how could we facilitate that? And here's the caveat, in such a way that the knucklehead out there who is mad that he got a speeding ticket can't respond to the survey 1,000 times and skewer the results or whatever. If you don't have an immediate answer, can you think about that? Okay.
That's, depending on what software you want to use, any software that I can name right now off the top of my head, it's as simple as just clicking a button. It's a setting. You can say, allow multiple responses or do not allow multiple responses.
And
Although I will say this, that responsing is by URL. So someone could do their
they
computer.
wanted to work that hard at it, they might be able to game it, but
To
okay.
be totally honest about it, their phone is different from their.
Do you think that the compliment should be set the same way as the complaint? Because the complaint form you have to actually print and fill out. Well, actually, you can fill it out and print it, whichever one you prefer, and then turn it in.
Mhm.
Do you think that the complement form should be set up the same way, or do you think both of them should be set up in such a way that they can be?
Well, actually, and I understand the confusion because I didn't really set this up very well. There's a complaint thing on your, and I'm not necessarily looking to have a which we could have a compliment thing on your page too. But separate from that, I got, and maybe I need to go back and read that again. I thought that Ms. Manson recommended that we just sort of take a survey of the community and again, maybe I'm paraphrasing, but I think she kind of wanted that because I think she anticipated that you guys would get a fair amount of praise and that would be going.
Yeah, I think she thought that would speed up the process of everything getting better real fast.
Yeah, yeah.
We can't, on a
I've got
side,
it here, Steve, if you need it. So
on a side note, so and I know this emergency services meeting, but maybe that's something that the village should do employee-wide on the village. Is, I mean, I see Travis.
Yep.
In a freaking hole and pouring down rain.
Yep,
I see Jeremiah and Tom coming in at midnight to scrape snow. Like,
Yep.
I think, every employee at some point probably deserves some praise.
I
So
agree. I
I
agree.
think that probably should just be across the board, maybe.
But since you specifically have your own site, I think that ought to be something that you can incorporate for exclusively using for those comments for your officers. How that gets done, I don't know. But remember, years ago, there was a very negative site where people could go to voice their things. I don't know whether it still exists. I'm not even going to bring up the name of it, but it was a very negative thing for everyone that was complaining. So if there is that kind of on-off, switch-off button, that would be great.
So, and I can say that essentially everything that has been mentioned in the past 5 minutes can be made happen with a high degree of setting it up the way we want to have it set up. This is not rocket surgery.
Okay.
This is a click a button.
Is this something, I don't think this is anything we have to have approval from council. I think this is just kind of a great suggestion that I think should take place. So I think that can be facilitated without having to go to council for
But
their approval.
I would think so. I mean,
I mean, you're in control of your site. The council's not in, so.
and he's in control of his department.
Right.
And then you, maybe even you a layer above that. And if one of the directives of the assessment was to poll your community. And I guess to take that a step further, Jeremy, in my head, I'm not thinking like a 35 question. I'm thinking like about a 4-question poll, kind of thing.
That's what she said. That's what she said in the assessment too.
Yeah,
Okay.
she said,
Okay, perfect. You got it there.
yeah, she said 5 or more questions, which to
Okay.
my mind means 10 would be the max, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 5 or more questions about this one, obviously, because it's a report, is police services, or a more in-depth survey form that is mailed to a number of persons that officers had contact with through caller service, a traffic stop, or proactive contact during each month. So I see there's actually 2 possible things here. One is a static thing that anybody could hit anytime. And then the second one, which is a little bit more complicated and definitely involves your,
Reaching out to people we've had contact with.
right, so that like every time something happens, that there's a follow-up on that. That to me is a whole nother level of beast. So I'm telling you, I can easily set up static things and stuff like that. The second thing, I mean, that involves your recording and reporting
Well,
systems.
with your committee's approval, can that be the first step? Do that, the easier one first,
Sure.
and see what kind of responses we get from that, and then we dive into that second thing. I'm not telling you what to do, but if that's what you would like to do, I would be all in favor of that. And I, for one, could probably, say that's what we can do right here and now.
But I would say to Steve, and I will bow to the will of the masses on this. If we're going to send that out and it's got the village logo on it, stuff like that, probably would want to bring it up in front of full council and maybe even take a vote on it, just because I would like everybody to know we're doing it. People who aren't here might get questions about
We
it.
can, I would recommend that all things that happen in subcommittee meetings be brought to the attention of full
There we go.
council.
Okay.
I don't, I mean, and we can take a vote of, I don't think well, I guess what I'm getting at is I don't think it requires like a vote and approval of the full council.
We're
We're not,
just telling them what we
yeah,
are
right,
doing.
right.
Required, yeah, no, it doesn't.
But yeah, I'm with you on that.
So could we like, you send out these forms, maybe explaining to go to our website I just think if you did that to where they could go to a website on their phone, they fill it out real quick, they're done.
Yeah.
If you expect them to mail something back, I don't,
I agree.
make it as easy as possible for them.
Absolutely.
I'm with Jeremy. I think that it would be easy enough to make a form online
Mhm.
to where whatever questions that they're going to end up being, block, the URL after so many submissions, whether
Yeah,
that's
we can do that.
Whether that's 1, 2, 3, whatever.
Mhm.
And then, like you said, that'll kind of weed out the people that
You're fine.
that just want to waste
Flame.
everybody's time.
It is. Yep, you're fine.
Yeah, that's super doable.
And that, in my head, I mean, and that, just to give you some comfort, I mean, you're not gonna have some survey thrown on you. It's not gonna, if you don't bless it, it's not, and if the mayor doesn't bless it, it's not some survey that me and Mike Mays and him are gonna craft up and say, yeah.
We can probably reach out to some other departments that's
Yes.
probably done the similar and see
Yeah,
what,
yeah,
what
yeah.
their questions were and things like that.
I think that that's gonna be a positive thing for you. And selfishly, it kind of checks a box off of the, because we want to show that we've done everything that we can do
Right.
on this assessment.
Right.
Okay, does anybody else have anything
I do want to
assessment
ask,
related?
I
Yeah.
do want to ask, and I'm being a little bit of a wise guy on this, but are you officially assigning homework on this? Because I need to write down, like, which I'm happy to do. I just want to know, like, if the ball's in my court, I don't want to drop the ball to
I
mix
think,
metaphors.
I don't think you'll have to do anything. My web guy can do this pretty easily. Like you don't have to do anything.
Is it appropriate for me to ask him to do that? I don't want to put stuff. I don't want to put work on other people's plate. If it's
I
something
mean,
I'm
like
supposed to be
once
doing.
we have the questions that everybody approves of,
Yeah.
all I got to do is give it to him. He can make the form, put it online. We're done.
Oh, okay.
And then I can just put a link on Facebook for people to find it easy,
Yep.
and then be done with it.
All right. As long as you think it's appropriate to ask him to do that. Like I say, I hate giving people work when they've already got a whole job to do.
Make a note in this being on streaming here, that we do bring it up in council. This is what the decision was of this committee.
I don't see you say that because this is on YouTube, Brian Font will hear this and put some.
Yeah, he'll be able to transcribe
Okay.
from what he hears.
Okay, well, yeah, you guys have made tons of headway on the assessment and continue to, and yeah, I guess I got to get it in my head. A lot of these items aren't check off items; they're just continual things that will keep on going on. But nice work on that. If there's nothing else on the assessment report, then the next thing I had, and I don't know why this is such a big thing with me, but I think Chief Freeland had mentioned one time, I think, maybe imagine this a year or so back, and maybe it's not just the speed limit thing, but the more I thought about it, was it more kind of like maybe both, but like a message board thing. You'd reference the Brown County Fair. So it seems like, and maybe even across more than one department, there might be some benefit to having the portable sign that could be moved around. You pull behind on a trailer and set up for calamity events or notifications of different things that need to be notated in different parts of town. But then I think maybe I took that idea and also morphed it into this speed limit thing. And I get, as a council person, probably the most common thing I get a lot of people complaining about, and rightfully so, banged up sidewalk in front of their house or a pothole and some of those things. But I get a lot about speed. And when you have the conversation long enough with the people, they get it, I think, that, if you park out in front of my house on Sunset Boulevard and try to tackle a speeding issue that might be happening there all week long, then there's 99% of the other town that's getting neglected. We don't have the manpower to, so that seemed like maybe, go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, I live off of Free Soil Road. free soil is like I-75 at times. You even have semis going down there that are going, 45, 50 miles an hour. So, and they can't be there all the time. I know they have stopped down there at Green Acres Drive and parked there, and they're able to get a lot of people there. But, it's, having one of those visible signs, whenever I go in another community and they have one of those flashing signs that shows what your speed limit is, by golly, I look at my speed and I try.
I know, it's like
Yeah.
reflex.
Yeah.
You do.
So-
I did just enough study on those to be dangerous on the speed ones. And I mean, it's like everything in life. You can get the $2,500 model or the $10,000 model. There was a lot of like soft benefits in those things too that might benefit Art Owens and some other departments. It's how fancy you want to be, but it can do, if you have a question about, do we really need a stop sign or a stoplight, it can do traffic counts. It can do a lot of other things besides just reminding us to slow down when we enter an area. So,
if you can bring up some of the specs on something like that and give that to Art, and maybe he can explore that with not only the chief, but Chief Rocky, and they can say, where's the application for this? Where
Okay.
do we apply it? And I think you've hit the nail on the head. It can be used for darn near anything, power lines down, wreck ahead, whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go too far down that road if there was some reason that I wasn't thinking of that. I thought that they had mentioned interest in that before, but if they said we tried that before and it didn't work, or we don't want it for this reason or
It just
whatever.
came down to dollars and cents.
Yeah,
or,
like everything. Yeah.
We've borrowed them before, haven't we? From
Yeah,
Bethel?
we borrowed the one from Bethel a couple of times. They actually, I think they may have even upgraded since then, because their message board was limited on what they could put on it. So I think they might have upgraded to a larger screen so they could put more wording on it. But I know they use it for both speed enforcement, or at least we'll say trying to get people not to speed in like their school zones, things like that. But they also use it for, if there's a parade, if there's a road work going on, whatever it might be, they can utilize that sign for whatever. And I think that even the one they had the option, they could either change the messages remotely from the office, or they could physically connect to it and change the
So it's
message.
probably like the sign that was over here in the Merchants Bank lot. Art could change the dialogue on the bottom of that sign from his desk. So I don't know if there's a certain.
And that's what started moving them, north end price, how fancy you want to get with. I know there's some you can do with a phone app, that maybe the Chiefs and Art and yourself had access to. You could change on the fly or.
If you'd like to go see it, I can tell you it is currently set up across the street from the veterinary clinic in Bethel, and it says, watch your speed. Because I just had to watch my speed getting here on time.
Could you tell if it was the upgraded model or if it's still the same?
That one is the upgraded model.
It is, yeah, because it's bigger, brighter, the color is better, and it seemed to have more digital space to.
And that's the thing, like they told me, because we talked, they wanted to sell me theirs so they could use the money. But
Yeah.
that company, I believe, like if you get one and you decide 5 years down the road, we want a better one, you can trade it in and get a different one.
If you're ever in a hurry to get to a meeting and you're speeding and you get pulled over and you tell them you're on the way to emergency services committee meeting, they have to let you go.
We need to have these meetings more often. Get me out, yeah.
That's really all I've got. I think that's enough.
I could go.
I wanted to leave time. Chief Rocky had to leave. If Chief Freeland or Captain Staggs, honestly, if they had anything that they would want to hear either discussed tonight or in future meetings, or comments, complaints, anything at all that that this format lends itself to speaking about, and if not, that's fine too.
Just as far as the Lexapol goes, I just asked for some patience because I don't really know exactly how much time it's going to take to get those funds moved over where they need to be. So
And we're so grateful that those funds are being donated. The last thing
We might be able to speed that up by allocating things from the general fund, with that just being to replace what is being donated. So if we need to speed that up, I'm sure the council would grant that. That's actually within Art's spending power too, that he could, we don't really have to have council, but it'd be worthwhile to shoot that by council as well. So we could front the money if that's what's necessary. If there's a kind of a drop dead date that you would really like to get this thing rolling with. And then you could reimburse the village from when funds are really.
Wait and see what the possible
Well,
policy for the
we
entire
could be,
village,
yeah.
where that's at.
Yeah, I'm
for-
trying to think where the other application, I can see where it helped Joey, but I'm not sure how it helps the others, but there probably is something in there for
It
that.
definitely, regardless if you're working on the street crew, water department, or, us or the fire department, it definitely lowers the liability to the village whenever all the employees are being regularly trained on their policy manual. So there's really no excuse whenever somebody
Maybe
says,
that
I
could
wasn't
equate
aware
in-
of that
Maybe that
policy.
could equate lowers workers' comp,
Yeah.
maybe even our liability insurance. I don't know. Probably not, but it probably could on our workers' comp anyway.
I know that it has mostly to do with policy manual creation. But thinking about it, and then a few of these other items that were on the assessment, I mean, as far as, I guess I'm really focusing on leadership training. If Chief Freeland, has indicated that he'll be retiring next year, good for him, bad for us. Then that's, maybe that item, maybe the font size just grew a couple points on my Excel spreadsheet, because that's something maybe we need to put more emphasis on than we ever have. So that's what's
Until-
weird about this committee is, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd almost ask you to, over time, maybe start driving that point home as the person that directly oversees those departments to the rest of council the best that you can.
Well, the thing is that, when we don't have the man, Matt dearly wanted to go to that program. And it was like, yeah, I want you to go to, but we can't let you be gone for 10 weeks because we don't have anyone that can fill that spot without, ruining a budget, of many, many hours of overtime. So the key is getting more part-timers, and we've got one ready to go. We have another one thinking about it. So that helps the situation. And we could probably get by with a lot of this with more part-timers. Would that be correct, Chief?
You think that particular thing that you're referencing would have been a possibility if we had the part-timers then that?
Yeah. Well, we'd probably need 2 or 3 part-timers to fill that void, because we can only work them, 30 hours a pay period?
Oh,
So,
no, 30 hours a week. So basically 60 hours a pay period.
yeah, we have to watch what we do with them, because we can't overwork them or they become full-time equivalents.
I can look at, there are some other options. There's some, in-person training is always better, but there are some online trainings that are every Monday, Tuesday. There's some other options that I can look at.
So do that then and bring them to the chief, and he can
Yeah.
share that
What
either
was
back here
so-
again or.
What was so enticing about this class is it was actually going to be done local, so I could drive back and forth.
Mhm.
And so you wouldn't have the cost of staying somewhere. And that was nice, but there are other options I can look at.
That if you would, please.
You don't have anything else, Chief Freeland or Captain Staggs, then, Mayor, if you have anything at all.
The only comments were kind of echoing what you said, both the chief and the captain have grasped the things that Sue Madsen recommended, and they've been running with it. They haven't done everything on there because they can't do everything at the same time. They're kind of waiting on the Lexipol tripwire, I suppose, so that a lot of things can then be, focused on more properly. And with the new continuing education hours coming through, they need to wait and see how does this play into everything we're doing. And maybe some of those things will be for Captain Staggs too. Maybe there's some enrichment classes through that as well. But all in all, I'm pleased with the progress.
Well, they've certainly done more and moved further on the items that would fall under their umbrella than the rest of us have, the items that are identified that fall under ours. So, okay. Jeremy?
I just wanted a quick question to make sure because I'm trying to just keep track of things here. Am I inferring correctly that an idea I would endorse about fronting the money in Lexipol and then get, that whole thing?
Mhm.
Am I correct in understanding we can't move forward this instant because we got to wait to hear?
Well, I don't know that we have to, but we could do that. And he has a different pot of money than what Chief Freeland
Correct,
has.
yeah.
So we could kind of do it piecemeal. But if there's a better economy of scale by doing everything at the same time, that might be well too. So I'll get in touch with Art tonight. He's at home. He's working from home. I think he works 24 hours a day from home, but you hear that, Art? But I'll check and see what conclusion he got from them, because I believe that he had a conversation. Chief, were you in with that conversation, or was Chief Rocky maybe with him talking about that? Lexapol for other parts of the department.
The only conversations I've had with Art about and Joey about Lexapol was in open council. We've never had to sit down.
I know he's done some stuff with it. I even know that he's talked to me a little bit about it, but I just can't
Right,
remember what
right.
all he,
Yeah, he mentioned it to me as well, but I can't remember either. So I'll bring
Okay.
that to his attention.
I don't want to obviously push things in directions that they can't go or speed things past the speed that they are possible to go, but I think it's a great idea. And
Yeah.
so
I mean, if the others are inconclusive as to whether the great benefit can be reaped by doing that, then fronting the money is a good issue to do, or do the two departments at the same time, whatever the case may be.
You have anything, Jeremy?
No.
Actually,
Sorry.
maybe for next meeting, we can tap in with Art on this too. There was this was just a real quick thing before we close. It just popped in my head. There was a document put out by Art that, about maybe deleting some traffic light signals here and there.
Mhm.
And I didn't know if the police department had seen that or had input.
Yeah, there's blind corners there.
I think that's,
I think that one's going to stay.
yeah, I think Art said the same thing.
North
that one should-
Street, North Street could be done as long as there was restricted parking, so it wouldn't blind people could actually see down the road whenever they're pulling out.
What I want to do is I want to look at American Structure Point's basis for that. I don't know whether it was just traffic count or whether they actually just threw, traffic count wires down, or whether they looked at the types of entry and egress and
My point
ingress
is,
there.
Mayor, that I suspect that's going to come up again in full council.
Yes,
And I wanted,
yeah,
although one of them may be there that night, I just kind of wanted to
Mhm.
at least get their opinion on
Yeah.
that.
I think the one out at Fifth Third Bank, I think that's one that I think is suggested
Everybody
that
could go.
disappear.
Yeah, I think there's an issue with that.
Yeah, so,
I know Jerry Cooper, I think, went around with them. So I think he has a lot of information on that, if I'm correct.
If not, if it's okay to daisy chain ideas, I honestly think that, because the one we had discussed, we're not sure that when we had talked about this in utilities. The one at North Main and North Street, that one there, that was the one that was unsure. And all I'm saying is if bringing back the idea of the solar radar signs, because my concern, I mean, I live right there, right? So is North Main Street becoming just you got to start from the square, right? Exactly. So we said we weren't sure, possible removing it, possible putting a stop sign as opposed to a red light, but also having one of those signs might help people to, I'm saying there's a lot.
Yeah. No, I get you. Yep. I'll get, me and Art will talk more about those things. So I think there's some fixed ones you can do on a pole, maybe in a location like that. There's some portable ones you can move around from problem area to problem area. And then there's the message boards kind of separate from the whole speed thing. So and I'll get with him on that. So, okay.
there's a lot of food for thought.
Yep.
So,
All right. Well, it's kind of weird. It's two of us, a motion to
Do you
adjourn.
want to set a future date? or
Yes.
no?
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly.
thinking
Yeah.
here.
Do we want these quarterly or what?
Kind of.
I think we're probably, in my opinion, we're to the point that we can do that.
Okay, so sometime in April perhaps?
And if, like you always say, and if there's some urgent need to do one sooner than that, we can do it another one. Yeah.
It could be April or May.
I'm just all about doing it what's better for the chiefs and captain. And is there a time of day that works better for you guys? That's not before 3 p.m. I guess that would be the,
Honestly, as police work goes, it's mornings are better, but I know you guys all have jobs that you have to go to too. So, I mean, I don't think we're going to get around the afternoon thing.
okay.
You prefer it being late afternoon rather than the evening, don't you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd rather me already be at work than have to come back.
That's how I always try to, and that kind of times up good with me and Jeremy too, I think.
4:30 times are a good time.
Okay.
Okay.
We got that far. Sometime in April at 4:30.
Yeah.
In April, Mayor's Court is the 12th and the 26th. So we could do something maybe in between our council meetings on April 20th, maybe? Or is that too far out?
I've got an event that night.
How about April 6th, which is the
Works for-
first Thursday?
That works for me.
Is that okay with you, Jeremy?
No,
Nope.
sorry. So that week is my spring break.
Okay.
So
What about a late Tuesday, April 11th?
I'm good with that.
Or it could be Monday the 10th.
You
That's
have your suntan taken care of by then?
Easter. Yeah.
Tuesday, April the
That's
11th
All I
works
do
for
is
me.
lay at the beach.
That's Tuesday, April 11th. That's 2 days after Easter. People, is that Easter break for people, or that it usually is, isn't it, for school kids?
That's what I'm saying. Mine is the week before,
Most of the kids,
strangely.
most of the kids around here with fair, they usually only get like an extended
That's true
weekend.
now. Yeah.
Through Monday at the
Yeah.
most, don't they? So is Tuesday, the 11th of April, all right? I mean, we can always change it if we need to.
This far out. Yeah.
Yeah, that works for me.
4:30, April 11th, Emergency Services Committee. Okay, now I think you can say those words.
But wait, actually, no, it's just, this is super quick though. Two things. Item number one is that we had in the past talked about the possibility of involving some of the other members of the police force here in Georgetown in like getting their feeling on things or just checking in with them and stuff like that. We even talking about rotating them through some of these meetings. And we'd also, I'm just throwing out if at any point in time that you guys feel it would be good to get some of them in here for these meetings. I'm looking at Steve. We haven't discussed this, but I would welcome hearing from other people too.
They're welcome to be here. I'm just
Right.
thinking.
Well, they're welcome to be here
better things
regardless
to do
because-
Well, you know,
Yeah.
but sometimes when you say,
Yeah.
hey,
An invitation.
so-and-so, we'd really like to hear your thoughts on blah, 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 blah. It's, you know, a little, so I'm not mandating anything. I'm just throwing it out there. And then just to make sure I'm understanding this, do we want to sit down sometime at your convenience and look over the possibility of the survey? Am I going too fast? Is that something you
I
want?
thought I heard him say you're gonna maybe
I
look
think,
at what
I
some
think,
other towns are
yeah, I
doing.
think I can start doing some research on
Yeah.
some other places that have done this and see if I can get a copy, maybe a cookie cutter or something. I can at least get some ideas
Yeah.
of how they did it and the types of questions they asked, things like that.
Do you want to bring that back to this meeting in April? Is that what you're thinking?
I'm hoping we'll already have it in place by then, but
Okay, cool.
I
When,
mean,
when you,
obviously
when you
we'll-
put that together, could you circulate that to this committee members to let them know what you've come up with? That way, not that we're going to critique it, but we may have some suggestions. We might say that's the perfect thing.
I just don't want, if you were thinking like, holy crap, I've got a lot of work to do and this is one more thing, I just want to know that I'm there to help if you want it. And if you don't need help, if you got it, then that's fine.
the only thing I'm stressing about right now
Yeah.
is the property room. Like, when is he going to be available?
Okay.
And scheduling Ramel and the what training are they going to throw at me this year, and how am I going to come up with the 16 hours? And how am I going to pay for it?
All of which are things I can't
See,
help you
what's the
with.
what's the Powerball up to now? Is that
Yeah, exactly. So that was just it. I want to make sure I understood what was going on.
Okay.
Done.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Very good.
Yeah. Thanks. Still live. Let me go get the screen here.
Mayor, is that at 6 or 6:30?
The zoning's at 6. At least from your email or your text.
That's right, I remember it now. Are you,